Welcome back. Here on Police Report, we provide you with information on crime trends, crime prevention techniques, and community programs. But you can get additional information by visiting the Baltimore County Police Department's website as well. The address is on your screen. Press releases from the Baltimore County Police Department can be accessed on the Baltimore County Police Department's website and on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. We encourage you to like us on Facebook and to follow us on Twitter for the latest news. The Baltimore County Police Department is now hiring police cadets and police officers. For information, go to Join Baltimore County PD or call 410-887-5542 to speak with recruiters. Here with us now to discuss the Police Department's mobile crisis team is Sergeant Chuck Hart and Director Allison Paladino of the Baltimore County Crisis Response System. Thank you both for being on the show today. Thank you, Ms. Paladino.
Thanks so much for having us.
Okay, and thank you, Sergeant Hart.
Thank you.
So the first question I'm going to ask Director Paladino is, what is the function of a affiliated Sante group?
Sure. Affiliated Sante Group is a behavioral health provider, a nonprofit behavioral health provider. We provide a number of different services. However, over the years, we've really come to specialize in crisis services. We run the crisis services for a number of jurisdictions in the state of Maryland.
Okay. And at some point, there was a relationship with Baltimore County. When did this relationship start, and how did it come about?
Sure. In 2001, Baltimore County Bureau of Behavioral Health put out a bid for crisis services for this region, and we, Affiliated Sante Group, won the contract. We were really fortunate at that time that the stakeholders in this process really were interested in the co-responder model. When I say co-responder model, a direct partnership with the police department, which involves an officer and clinician together to respond to mental health emergencies in the community. At the time, it was a newer concept, and everybody agreed this was a good idea in terms of helping with behavioral health needs in the community. What was happening both nationally and throughout the state, you would see that a lot of times traditional mental health services are available like 9 to 5, maybe a little evening hours, but what was happening beyond those hours when someone was experiencing a crisis? Well, people would pick up the phone and dial 911. So police were becoming de facto responders to these types of situations. So here in our jurisdiction, it was just decided to kind of put this behavioral first responder model together and be the best resource for the citizens.
Sergeant, this sounds like a great idea. How did our police officers function on the street dealing with someone in crisis before the crisis team?
Unfortunately, the resources were very limited back then, and as well as the education, our training. So before, in the past, all we had was the ability to either emergency petition, and that means take the person against their will to the hospital for safety concerns, or arrest and let the courts help.
Okay. And what was required for a police officer to take somebody for an emergency petition?
They were a threat to themselves or others.
Okay. And no other resources were available, no other person you could call or a group that you could call if you were dealing with somebody?
Not like the resources that we have now.
Okay. Interesting. And so we talked about when the team was created. What's the makeup of the team? Who's on this crisis team?
Well, we have 8 specially selected and trained police officers that pair with the mental health clinicians in the car, and the teams are split the east side of the county and the west side of the county. So we run from 9:30 till 5:30 in the evening, and from 5 p.m. till 1 a.m. in the morning.
Okay. And these are armed, licensed police officers?
They're sworn police officers.
Okay. And then what's some of the type of the training? You said that these are trained police officers. What type of extra training have these officers received?
Well, our police department offers specialized training classes. Before we had the police response to persons in crisis, verbal judo, classes where we deal with abnormal psychology and de-escalation.
Okay. And then can you describe what's involved in this training?
Well, the training consists of not in classroom, but it brings in folks from the community that are either care providers for somebody with a behavioral health issue, folks that have behavioral health issues, as well as individuals that are dealing with substance use problems, special populations, autism, traumatic brain injury, dealing with our combat veterans.
Okay. And you kind of hinted de-escalation is something that you're trying to address in these situations. What is the purpose of the mobile crisis team?
The purpose of the mobile crisis team is to provide alternatives to that emergency petition process as well as to arrest, to try to calm somebody, bring back rational thought, reduce emotions, and link them to services, both short-term and long-term.
Okay, and can you describe the idea of how you're going to link them to these services? What's the kind of follow-up, or what's these officers going to offer to them?
Well, first of all, they're going to have eyes on them to be able to assess their behavior as well as the environment they're in, and then to provide an assessment, on-scene assessment from the clinician, and we're going to do what's best for that individual, deemed what's safe for the community, that individual, as well as us as officers.
Okay. And then can you describe some of these situations where we've successfully de-escalated or brought someone to resources? Can you describe any specific situation that the team has handled?
We handle a multitude of cases. Dealing with suicidal individuals, some folks just lose their coping mechanisms and they see no way out. And at this time, we can come in and do an assessment and crisis plan them and leave them in the community with a support network that's provided by Baltimore County Crisis Response. We also have dealt with folks that are having psychotic issues or delusional, whether that's auditory or visual hallucinations, and they stray onto people's properties and confront people. We're able to then get them the resources they need to help them manage not only their crisis, but their mental health condition, both on the short and long term, as well as we deal with folks that are emotionally distressed. They come home, maybe find a family member deceased, and obviously it's a very emotional event. We can come in and start early intervention to put them on a path to wellness and how to deal with a loss, a crisis and loss.
Okay, so it's very unusual for a police department to offer these kind of services. This seems like a great partnership. Director Paladino, I'm going to ask you, you said that these teams are staffed with licensed mental health professionals. Mm-hmm. Yes, and what is it like for, I guess, the mental health professionals? They're not used to being in a police car with patrol officers, or with detectives. What is it like for them to now be a part of the police department?
Sure, it's certainly a unique partnership, and it's pretty amazing, the team that I think we build together in terms of the personnel on the team on both sides. Typically, mental health clinicians are usually dealing with after the fact. A crisis has occurred and maybe coming into my office or an office setting. Here, we're really out there in the environment, on scene, while the crisis is occurring, to offer an assessment, to offer support, and to come up with a plan for the individual. Certainly, as clinicians newly join our team, it's a very different experience of being in real life, acute, they can be high intensity situations with their officer partner. I think we really rely on the cross-training of the two professions, that they do a phenomenal job. When they're on scene in the environment, they really are keeping in mind that, we have two different types of training, different skill sets that we bring to offer support and help in the community, and we're able to render that together, which really increases the outcomes for the individuals that we serve.
So police officers receive training when they're going into these emergency calls. Is there some training for the clinicians that are going in, or is there a relationship amongst the police officer and the clinicians that they know what type of situation they're going in or being sent into an emergency situation?
Sure, so we do a lot of cross-training with the team, some smaller and very topic-driven training. Of course, there's, you're partnered with your law enforcement partner for 8 hours a day. There's a lot of on-the-job training. However, we do once a year, we take safety very seriously for our clinicians and officers, and we do a full safety day training with a variety of topics on how the team can kind of work together, again, for our side, understanding how police view the environment, what their perspective is, and then for the officers to understand what we're looking at when we're on scene too. It really becomes quite a partnership where they kind of can go on scene and non-verbally as partners, communicate, what's happening and how best to address the situation.
So do the clinicians on your team ever tell you about experiences like when they were going through schools and obtaining their certification that they ever believed that they'd be in a police car?
No, I think it's definitely unique. It takes a certain type of person. We've been really fortunate. We have team members that have been with us for well over 10, approaching 15 years. It's kind of, if it's a fit for you, it's really a fit. And I think it's a way to really get out there in the environment and help people in that moment, which is really rewarding and not something you can do in every social work or mental health position.
Yeah, and the sergeant mentioned the hours that the team's working. What's the size? How many members do you have on your team?
Currently, I'm operating with 5 full-time positions, and then it does take a lot of part-time positions due to the hours and the shift work, and we run 365, snow, holidays, so we have a pool of trained clinicians that we use to staff the team.
So expanding the team would be very beneficial.
We would absolutely love, I know both sides would love to see an expansion of the team because unfortunately, these needs aren't going away. And I think we could just reach out to more people with further expansion.
Okay. And Sergeant, I can tell you from my personal experience, having and being able to call the mobile crisis team to a situation is a valuable asset. What's some of the things that you've heard from officers out there of having the mobile crisis team at their access?
Well, it provides the person in crisis, again, there's alternatives to the traditional means of dealing with the person. The officers, it allows them to go back in service, that we can slow the pace of the call. We can try to get to the root of the problem with that individual, as well as it's a cost savings. When we look at that from a court perspective, when we look at it from a detention center perspective, public defender's office, there's a lot of different people that are involved in this, and it's just a savings all the way around with better outcomes.
So Director Paladino, what are some of the other resources that are available to those citizens of Baltimore County?
So the Baltimore County Crisis System also has in-home intervention teams and an urgent care center, and you can access all of those through our 24-hour hotline.
Okay. As you heard, the Baltimore County Police Department, the Baltimore County Health Department, and the affiliated Sante Group collaborated to establish a system to provide resources for those in need of behavioral or mental health care. The Mobile Crisis Team is one of the resources that's available to respond to those in crisis. If you need immediate support, please call 410-931-2214. This hotline is available 24 hours each day, 7 days a week. These resources are provided free of charge. If you need more information about the Mobile Crisis Team, you can go to the Baltimore County Police Department or affiliated Sante Group's website. Thank you again, Director Paladino, for being on the show today.
Thanks so much for having us.
And thank you, Sergeant Hart, for being on Police Report.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.